Arsenal continued their fine form by thrashing London rivals West Ham 6-0 at the London Stadium. Now, while it was an utterly domination by Arsenal and they completely deserved to win, the whole team played brilliant, but there was a few players that stood out completely. And one of them was the captain Martin Ødegaard, who continued his brilliant form with a scintillating performance to give the Gunners the win. But how was Ødegaard so effective, and how did Arsenal overcome West Ham's challenge? It's safe to say Arsenal are back. After 4 wins in a row, they have been brilliant recently, and they followed up their amazing win against Liverpool with an utterly devastating victory against West Ham. Now, Arsenal have struggled against West Ham in the past, and twice this season they've already lost to them, especially dominating them at the Emirates in the Premier League and coming away with a 2-0 loss. Arsenal beat Liverpool with a double pivot with Jorginho in midfield, and they used Havertz up front to come deeper to overload the midfield. In this game, Arsenal knew this weren't going to work, and Arteta tried to change the plan to put Havertz back in midfield. However, it was not that simple. Because Jesus was injured, Trossard played in centre forward and was actually a false 9, coming a lot into midfield, and Havertz moving up to win the duels and beef the defenders. Now, because Kiwior is not comfortable as Zinchenko in the inverted role, and Kiwior had to play because Zinchenko was injured, Ødegaard is often dropping deep, which sees Arsenal build up in a 4-2-4 shape. This overloads the West Ham press, and although it lacks numbers high, Arsenal could progress the ball up quicker and get players up there. White was the person we gave the job to invert in, and he had to be very smart in this game to be in a good position when Ødegaard had the ball. Arsenal usually like building up in a 3-2-5, so Ben White had to be that right winger to build up, but had to be careful that Ødegaard did not lose possession or was in a good position to cover. Because this takes some time to set up, Arsenal were not necessarily always quick at being progressive against the West Ham defence. But often when they got in a deeper position up against the West Ham defence, they pinned them back because they had 5 players and more than West Ham. Now, West Ham are a team that usually sit back and are quite physical, so people like Zinchenko being out wasn't the worst for Arsenal because they could play Havertz and Kiwior in the team. Ødegaard kept picking the ball up in space around the pitch, and he often had very many moments where he dribbled past players and had a free space to run into. Ødegaard was brilliant in this game at interchanging with Ben White to invert at different times. Sometimes Ben White would come in to overload that midfield, but sometimes Ødegaard would also keep the ball. We kept changing it over and over in that first half, and West Ham just simply couldn't live with it. And a lot of the time, Ødegaard was picking the ball up deep from the right side of the pitch, and he'd even go past Souček with a dribble, or we usually pass it off to White or Saka that comes deeper, and then move on to pass it, go through Souček. West Ham weren't dealing with him and weren't going past him, and then Ødegaard, Trossard, Havertz, Martinelli, Saka, White, all up against the defence at this point, even though West Ham are playing deeper and deeper. And we know how good Ødegaard can be creatively. And sometimes in the games, Ward-Prowse and Kudus would just get caught up front and they would not be able to come back. And this often let Souček and Alvarez have to do a lot with the overload that Arsenal had. And if they made a poor touch, we had so many players there with Trossard, Havertz, Martinelli, Ødegaard and Rice all being in that midfield. And just like the 4th goal where we pick it up from a poor touch by Alvarez, Harris does a simple pass into Ødegaard, who's then in an elevated position, and he's got Trossard running in the box. He just picks him out and Trossard puts it in the top corner. And now to say Martin Ødegaard is just a creative player or anything would be a complete lie. Martin Ødegaard is an all-phase midfielder. He is a natural progressor, passer, everything in that midfield. He can do anything to the level he can. He could easily play as an 8 and still do a brilliant job. He's one of the most hard-working midfielders Arsenal have had in a very long time, and even if a pass goes past him, he will make sure he goes back and does the tackle to win the ball back. And despite not being physical in stature, he uses a lot of physicality to win the ball back and win duels for his team. Ødegaard often picked the ball up from deep, and he'd usually work around players. He wouldn't necessarily go past them if he felt like he couldn't, and he'd pass it off and get a 1-2 on to go past them as soon as he's in space as well. Because West Ham didn't press him outside the box 25-30 yards out, and we had so many runners in there, he had so many options and he always picked them out. There was many times that Havertz and Saka would interchange in the box and lay it off for each other, or even Kiwior or Martinelli or White would go from the wing and go up front. Ødegaard found it really easy to find these passes in this space, and for some reason West Ham weren't getting close enough to him, so he had time to do what he wanted. I think Ødegaard really benefited from this tactical display because also Arteta made it so Trossard would come from the edge of the box as well. Because at some points we were so dominant, had the ball so much, we had nearly all our attackers in there. So Trossard could actually sit just outside the box as well with Ødegaard giving him options. This is what happened with the Trossard goal, and this is what happened when we created many chances. We may not use Trossard as an option, but he's definitely pulling away defenders towards him and not all towards Ødegaard. And Ødegaard, even though Rice played mostly as a single pivot in this game, but obviously we were very dominant. We were 4-0 up at half time, so at that point it's kind of just attack and West Ham had given up. He did come back and would collect the ball a lot from Rice and also our defenders. He kind of played a bit of a double pivot but more moved up, and he was much better better on that right side, being able to progress with the ball in space and pass it up the field. While on the other side, we have Martinelli, Havertz and Trossard, and sometimes even Kivior creating an overload on the left side. We also had him, White and Saka having a nice little triangle down the right. And when Arsenal scored their 5th goal with Saka, Odegaard got his 2nd assist of the day. It's just a simple little outside the foot run. They don't get close enough to him and he passes it through for Saka, who does the rest. This is where you want him. Other players pulling people away, giving Odegaard the space and ability to run forward and give chances to our team. Now, when I say this was a monster performance by Odegaard, I really mean it. Not only was he the most involved player in the game, making a whopping 121 touches, he also made 12 passes into the final third and created a whopping 7 chances for the team. Not only that, he made 107 passes out of 113, being very accurate. And when you consider the amount of chances he created, that is an insane pass completion, and completing over 100 passes a game is ridiculous. In fact, this is so mental. He's the first player on record since 2004 to complete 100 passes, create at least 5 chances and assist multiple goals in a Premier League match, making it an iconic display for the captain. And to make his stats even better, this season he has now created over 50 chances in Europe, being the most creative player in European football. And in the last 11 games, he has created 46 chances and 11 big chances. That is a big chance a game. That is insane stats. He is really playing at the top of his game right now, and he has the most expected assists in the league. So the fact he doesn't have a lot is not his fault when you think about it. I also think his real captain leadership came through today. A lot of the players on the bench wanted Ethan Nwaneri to come on, a player that is very much like Odegaard, who's only 16 years old. And when he came on, Odegaard was running to make sure we kept the ball and kept a clean sheet, while also giving the ball to the kid as much as he could. He passed it to Ethan Nwaneri as much as he could and got him on the ball to create chances, so we could actually see a little bit of him in the first team. Now, if that's not what captain mentality or leader mentality is, I don't know what is. He's a phenomenal football player and phenomenal leader for this team. Anyone that thinks we should get rid of him is quite frankly stupid at the moment. Odegaard is the real creative force of this team, and when he plays as an 8 or a bit deeper, he is very much better. This is why I think Arsenal will preferably get a 6 in the summer. But it really showed what he could do today against a decent team, West Ham, who've always got the better of us. And the system change that Arteta did in this game was so much better when we played them at home. And to prove he can do any parts of the game, he also made 5 recoveries in this game. Very encouraging. Martin Ødegaard was everywhere on the pitch, and as an all-phase midfielder, he can really do every phase on the pitch. His goal scoring might have fell off from last season, but his positioning and arguably his creative work and midfield work has got even better, and you'll see it eventually. It's getting better every single week. What a brilliant result for Arsenal. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about the result or Martin Ødegaard as the captain in this team. And if you like this video, I'll recommend going to watch my video yesterday where I talked about Grimaldo tactical masterclass against Bayern Munich. Please go and watch that. Thank you for watching.